It is a curious truth, one that years of close association with Mr. Sherlock Holmes have impressed firmly upon my mind, that the most grotesque terrors often mask the most methodical of human designs. What the superstitious attribute to phantoms, and what the timid whisper of curses, may frequently be reduced, by a colder eye and a steadier intellect, to motive, means, and opportunity. Please let us know in comment from where you are listening and what is the time. The affair which I am about to recount was spoken of throughout London in hushed tones, of an Egyptian mummy that walked by night, of a withered spectre wrapped in ancient linen, and of men who fell dead at its silent approach. That Holmes unraveled the truth without once conceding ground to the supernatural will surprise none who know him. That I myself felt a chill of genuine dread, despite my reason, may perhaps render this narrative the more human. I had returned to our lodgings in Baker Street on a bleak November evening, the fog lying thick upon the lamps and muffling the sounds of the street like a great woolen shroud. Holmes sat, as was his custom, upon the sofa with his long limbs drawn beneath him, a half-smoked pipe forgotten between his fingers while his eyes rested, unseeing, upon the ceiling. "You are brooding, Holmes," I remarked, removing my coat. "That generally signifies either profound boredom or imminent brilliance." He smiled faintly. "An admirable diagnosis, Watson. In this instance, I fear it is boredom, interrupted only by the anticipation of its cure." I had scarcely taken my chair when a sharp rap fell upon the door, followed almost immediately by the unmistakable tread of a man accustomed to command. Inspector Lestrade entered, his expression unusually grave. "Evening, Mr. Holmes." "Doctor," he said curtly, "I'd not trouble you if the matter weren't, well, damned peculiar." Holmes's eyes gleamed at once. "Peculiarity is the one quality which redeems existence, Lestrade. Pray, enlighten us." Lestrade drew from his pocket a folded newspaper and spread it upon the table. The headline spoke of death at the Egyptian Hall. A night watchman found lifeless, his face contorted in terror. "2 deaths now," Lestrade said. "Both at the Ashcroft Collection, private antiquities, recently returned from Cairo. Witnesses swear they've seen it." Holmes raised an eyebrow. "Define it." "A mummy, sir, walking, wrapped in bandages, glowing eyes. One fellow claims it whispered as it passed him." I confess I felt a prickle at the nape of my neck, despite my medical training and years beside Holmes. Holmes, however, merely steepled his fingers. "How refreshing," he murmured. "Pray continue." "We attended the Ashcroft residence the following afternoon, a somber Georgian house whose upper gallery had been converted into a private museum. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with scarabs, idols, and funeral masks whose blank stares followed one's progress. Holmes moved slowly, almost lazily, yet his eyes missed nothing. He paused before the mummy's sarcophagus. "An excellent specimen," he observed. "Late dynastic period, linen authentic, resin correctly aged." "You don't believe it walks, surely?" Lestrade asked. Holmes smiled thinly. "I believe, Lestrade, that it appears to walk under certain conditions." He knelt beside the floor, observed the dust, disturbed only here and here. A man walking, not a spectre gliding. I bent closer. "There is a scent. Myrrh, perhaps?" "Opium," Holmes corrected softly. "Masked with myrrh. An ingenious touch." The caretaker, a nervous fellow named Briggs, confessed that the mummy had been unsealed 3 weeks prior at the insistence of Professor Aldwyn Ashcroft himself. Holmes questioned him gently. "Did the professor sleep well of late?" Briggs hesitated. "No, sir, night terrors. Said the dead were restless." Holmes nodded. "Indeed. And who stood to gain by frightening him into such a state?" The professor's nephew, it transpired, was deeply in debt, and stood to inherit the collection. Holmes examined the mummy once more and, with a sudden motion, pressed upon the chest. A faint click answered him. "A mechanism," he said, "crude but effective." the accumulation of overlooked details. That evening, Holmes laid out his findings with calm precision. The nephew employed a pliable accomplice, our caretaker, who donned the wrappings, phosphorescent paint for the eyes, a mild toxin upon the bandages, absorbed through the skin, inducing paralysis and cardiac failure in men already predisposed. And the whispering? I asked. A simple reed concealed within the wrappings. Fear supplies the rest. Lestrade stared. And the curse? Holmes waved a hand. An inheritance of imagination, Lestrade. The most reliable weapon mankind has ever devised. We confronted the nephew in the gallery. Holmes spoke quietly, almost kindly, dismantling the man's confidence step by step. His debts, his access, the false linen soaked anew each night. The man collapsed into a chair, his scheme laid bare. I never meant to kill them, he sobbed. Holmes's voice hardened. Intent does not absolve consequence. The case concluded with arrests. The mummy returned to silence, and London's ghost laid to rest by reason. As we walked home through the thinning fog, I remarked, Holmes, do you ever feel disappointed when the supernatural yields to science? He considered this. On the contrary, Watson, the world is quite strange enough, without our inventing spirits to excuse our own crimes. And yet, I confess, when the lamplight flickered upon a strip of forgotten linen in that gallery, I was not altogether sorry that Holmes walked beside me. Dr. John H. Watson,